Hello, welcome to this Computer Weekly video. I'm Brian Glick, I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Computer Weekly.
And I'm Claire MacDonald, I'm the Business Editor of Computer Weekly.
And we want to have to chat with you about your job. Well, more specifically, we want to tell you about all of your jobs. Now, every year Computer Weekly does a big salary survey. We go out and talk to all our readers and ask them how much you're earning, what are your hopes for your career, what's going on out there in the marketplace. And Claire and I are going to have a little chat today about some of the findings that have come out of this year's research. Now, Claire, you've gone through the research, you've looked at it in some detail. Pick out a few, the top level highlights from it and tell us, what we were trying to find out in the survey this year.
Yeah, so as always, we looked into people's salaries by region, by role, and by business size. But I think overwhelmingly, the thing that we were trying to find out about over the last year was how the pandemic affected hiring, affected salaries, and affected people's day-to-day working life.
Yeah, I mean, the impact of the pandemic, we all know, had a huge effect on everybody, and IT people were right at the heart of that. It was IT people who kept people working during all the lockdowns, of course, but it had an effect on them as well. So what did we find out? What did the survey tell us? What was the big impact that the pandemic had specifically on people working in IT?
It's funny you mentioned that because one of the things that surprised me the most was the number of IT workers that said that their firms had furloughed people, considering the great effort that IT people went through, usually at the expense of, like their work-life balance and mental health, just to keep businesses going. We found out that 32% of IT workers said that their firms had furloughed people. Like I said, I was extremely surprised by that. And I think one of the overwhelming things that we found was that there seemed to be quite a lot of uncertainty in the tech space. It was demonstrated in, some of the statistics that we saw. So, for example, 19% said that staff had been made redundant during the pandemic, whereas 17% said that more staff had been added. 19% said that there'd been reduced working hours. 14% said that there'd been increased working hours. So you can sort of see that there's this, bouncing back and forth, different firms taking different strategies to try and stay afloat in a really uncertain time.
Yeah, I mean, nearly a third of people saying that their firm furloughed IT workers off. I mean, that seems a big number, but yeah, very odd, isn't it? Clearly depends where you are, what sort of organisation you were in. Almost as many people reduced working hours as increased working hours, and so forth. How has it affected salaries? A lot of organisations had to cut back on their spending and cut back on costs and so forth. Has that had a knock-on effect on what people have been earning over the last year?
Yeah, definitely. So 30% said that there'd been a pay freeze implemented in their organisation. And you can imagine, firms, if they are not sure about what's going to happen, then they need to make sure that their margins are protected, I guess. So you would think, pay freeze kind of makes sense. There was a year-on-year drop in the average salary of IT workers. So we divide the salary survey by lots of different categories, like I said at the top. When you look at roles, general IT workers made an average of about 41,000 a year, which was a year-on-year drop. Senior IT leaders made around £97,105 a year. Yeah, but that obviously depends on the role and the business size, things like that, the region. One of the things that seemed fairly certain was that fewer people were looking for new opportunities and roles. So 45% of people said that they were staying where they are, and who can really blame them?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see in 12 months' time from now whether that sort of impact on the pandemic on salaries continues through 2021. But it's interesting as well, looking back at this time last year, just before lockdown started, we were writing then a lot about skill shortages, about how the industry was desperately trying to recruit more people to work in IT. And related to that is the issue of diversity. We've written a lot in Computer Weekly, haven't we? And you in particular, Claire, about how few women there are in IT, about the importance of being able to make IT a diverse and inclusive workplace in order to encourage a really mix of skills and people from different backgrounds that reflect the sort of the audience, if you like, that IT departments are increasingly serving. Now we asked people a little bit around progress on diversity in the survey as well, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's no secret that diversity is amongst one of my favorite things that I cover, so I'm always keen to talk about it. the the pandemic was something that worried quite a lot of people when it came to diversity. There was this concern that D&I initiatives would be sort of left by the wayside. But we found that 67% of the people that we asked said that their firms were working on gender diversity, which isn't a terrible statistic. The problem is that only 29 actually have a plan in place to improve gender diversity in tech teams. So at least people are thinking about it. Whether they're moving forward with it, I guess we'll see. One of the biggest issues that I think was highlighted in what we found was that 40% of tech workers said that men don't need to be involved in integrating women into tech teams, which I thought was quite worrying, considering if men are in an overwhelming number and someone's trying to join a team and they're in the minority, if the inclusion's not there, then there's no reason for them to stay. So, I guess we'll have to see what happens. As long as it's a topic there to cover, I will be covering it.
Yeah, we've written about this before, haven't we? How it is at the end of the day, it's the men in IT that are responsible for making IT a more diverse place to work. So yeah, let's hope that some of the messages are going to start getting through from that over the next 12 months or so as well. Interesting stuff. Thanks, Claire. Some really interesting statistics there. If you want to read more about our salary survey, go to computerweekly.com. You can read some of the articles that Claire has written about it, and also you can download some of the detailed findings from the salary survey as well. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.